Something huge is happening in Washington right now, and no matter your politics, it's going to affect you, especially if you're a senior, care for someone on Medicaid, or live in a small town where healthcare options are already thin. We're talking about President Trump's new $4.9 trillion proposal, what he's calling the Big Beautiful Bill. It's packed with promises, headlines, and controversy, but here's the truth. Buried inside this giant plan is a change that could impact whether your local clinic stays open, whether you can get a home health aide for your aging parent, or whether you'll have to pay out of pocket for care you used to get help with. In this video, we're unpacking exactly what's in the bill, how it could impact you, and why the next few days are critical. You'll walk away understanding what's real, what's at risk, and what you can do right now to protect your benefits and prepare for what's coming. If you're someone living on a fixed income, helping a loved one through retirement, or just trying to make sense of all the noise coming from Capitol Hill, this breakdown is for you. Medicaid is one of those systems people often don't think about until they need it, and by then it's too late to fix. That's why we're diving into it now, because what you learn today could protect you tomorrow. And if you live in a rural area where healthcare options are already stretched thin, you'll want to pay close attention because this bill hits rural hospitals especially hard. So here's the value in watching to the end. We're not only breaking down what the bill says, we're also walking through what it actually means for your life, your hospital, your nursing care, your parents' benefits, and even your tax refund. You'll also learn how this could shape the next decade of healthcare in America, whether this bill passes or not. And that kind of insight can help you plan better, push back smarter, and make sure you're not blindsided when policies change. And while we get started, drop a quick comment. Do you believe these kinds of big spending bills ever help regular people, or do they mostly benefit big corporations and wealthy donors? I want to know where you stand because these decisions affect all of us. If you appreciate these calm, clear updates, hit that subscribe button so we can keep having these conversations. Let's get into the heart of it. President Trump's Big Beautiful Bill is being framed as a bold promise to the American people. At the surface, it includes tax cuts for the middle class, reductions in government spending, and business incentives to boost the economy. But behind the big numbers and big talk, there's a specific cut that's creating the most backlash. A proposed $715 billion reduction in Medicaid funding over the next 10 years. That's not a typo. $715 billion. For a lot of families, Medicaid is the lifeline that covers nursing home costs, home health aides, transportation to appointments, and long-term care. It's not just a program for people who are unemployed or below the poverty line. Millions of middle-income families depend on Medicaid to cover costs Medicare doesn't touch. I remember when my aunt needed in-home care after knee surgery. Medicaid paid for it. Without that help, she would have had to go without, or pay thousands out of pocket. These cuts aren't just numbers, they would be felt directly. If they go through, many seniors and their families will suddenly be left asking, how are we going to pay for this now? And for small towns where Medicaid reimbursements keep rural hospitals afloat, it could mean cutting staff, closing wings, or shutting down entirely. States like Missouri and North Carolina, where rural hospitals are already at the edge, could be hit the hardest. That means fewer nurses, longer drives just to see a doctor, or waiting weeks for an appointment. Now, this bill is being pushed through with a method called budget reconciliation. It's a way for lawmakers to skip the usual 60 vote requirement in the Senate and pass a bill with just 51 votes. That's a big deal because it speeds things up, but also cuts down debate and input. But even with this shortcut, the Senate parliamentarian, the person who enforces the rules, has already struck out 12 major provisions from the bill. These included unrelated items like changes to immigration and selling off public lands. Now senators are scrambling to rewrite parts of the bill on the fly, while keeping the major provisions alive. It's high-pressure politics right now. Trump has publicly demanded that lawmakers stay in Washington, skip vacations, and get this done before the July 4th deadline. The urgency isn't just about policy, it's political. With election season heating up, passing a major bill would be a win to brag about on the campaign trail. But when things are rushed, important details can get missed. And it's everyday people who usually pay the price. So who supports it and who's fighting it? Supporters argue that this plan reduces waste, gives businesses tax breaks, and will help grow the economy. It's the classic trickle-down theory. Cut taxes for the wealthy and businesses, and eventually the benefits reach everyone. But polls suggest most Americans aren't buying it. Approval ratings for the bill are under 40%, and unions are running ads warning that Medicaid cuts could lead to overcrowded ERs, seniors losing caregivers, and fewer mental health services. Now let's talk money. Some viewers ask, won't tax cuts help us keep more money in our pockets? For some, yes. But studies show the richest 1% would get the largest benefit, saving tens of thousands annually, while low-income Americans could actually lose around $1,600 a year in lost benefits. That's a huge hit when you're already struggling to afford medications or rent. And here's the kicker. Even with all these proposed spending cuts, budget experts say the bill might not actually reduce the deficit long term. If the business tax cuts become permanent, as many assume they will, the national debt could rise by another $2.4 trillion. So we'd lose Medicaid support, but pass a bigger debt burden onto future generations. Even within Trump's own party, there's growing tension. Senator Josh Hawley, for instance, represents Missouri and has spoken out about how the Medicaid cuts could devastate rural hospitals in his state. Some GOP leaders are floating the idea of a rural hospital fund to offset the damage, but no one's explained how it would work or where the money would come from. Let's talk about how this could hit your life directly. If you're helping your parents get long-term care, or you rely on home health visits, you could be asked to jump through more hoops, stricter eligibility rules, more income verification, or even new work requirements. Nursing homes could close beds or raise private pay costs. Clinics could reduce hours. You might find yourself calling 5 places just to get one appointment. That's the reality families are bracing for, and if you're thinking, this sounds familiar, you're right. Think back to Medicare Part D under President Bush, or the Affordable Care Act under President Obama. Both were controversial at first, but once passed, they became permanent fixtures. Big healthcare laws once enacted rarely get repealed. That's why the stakes here are so high. If this bill passes, even in a limited form, parts of it could shape healthcare in America for decades. A lot of viewers have written in and said they feel like the system works for donors and lobbyists, not regular people. And this bill only adds fuel to that feeling. When tax cuts for corporations are detailed and protected, but Medicaid support is trimmed with vague phrases like efficiency, it's fair to be skeptical. Even more concerning, there are whispers behind the scenes that if the Senate parliamentarian keeps blocking key parts of the bill, Trump may urge GOP leaders to overrule or even replace her. That's a dramatic move and would spark a constitutional clash over Senate rules and the balance of power, but it shows how determined leadership is to push this bill through, no matter what. So what's next? Negotiations are still unfolding, and every hour brings new changes.